Cheers. Welcome. Hey, I hope you're having a good day. I am here to talk a little bit about holistic health and what the heck that really is. And it comes to mind because to me, it's a big issue. It's a big issue that actually needs to be addressed, as well as the fact that I've got some clients that I'm working with, and I've just come to understand the lack of integrity. Just the lack of integrity. There's a division. That's the lack of integrity. There is a division between what we view as allopathic conventional medicine and then the alternative, or natural, right? Natural health, natural remedies are not the alternative. All cards on the table, allopathic conventional medicine is the alternative. This is something that we went to after thousands of years of using natural remedies. Now look, because I started off in pharmacology, I can stand here and argue for every reason why we want to use medication. Well, not 100% of the time. There are certain instances where you just don't need it, or it's being over-prescribed, without question. But when we look at the fact that we are the most successful society in our history, ever, between the technology and the advancements in technology and everything that we have available to us, we are by far the most successful society ever in human history. At the same time, we are also the sickest society in the course of human history. I'm just going to give you a couple of statistics here. That 50% of adolescents today are already marked as potential having one or more mental health concerns. 50% of our teenagers. And your brain health affects your physiological health. Okay? I'm looking at some notes. In the United States, Risperdal and Seroquel, which are antipsychotics, are in the top 5 prescriptions written. In Canada, currently there are over 3.5 million of children currently taking some form of medication for ADHD. We have, and this doesn't even account for the adults, over 50% of the population are, they're sick. 65% of the people in the United States alone take at least one medication on an ongoing basis for longer than 30 days. 50% of those people are taking 3 or more. Chances are you're one of them. Those are some pretty high statistics. And so the point is that conventional medicine, for as good as it is and as much as it has to offer, there are times when we are overprescribing. And we're overprescribing in the sense that we are not taking into consideration the value of natural remedies, the value, not that they exist, but the actual value of them and what they have to offer. We recognize them for possible interactions, absolutely, because if you take a prescription, they'll tell you not to take St. John's wort when you take an antidepressant, right? There are certain things that they'll tell you not to do. But when it comes to essential oils, we don't even look at those. So there again, from my background, I can firmly stand here and tell you that there is a reason why we have medications and they have their place. But if you look at the conventional model alone, it's not enough. If you look at natural remedies alone, they're not enough. We're missing something. And that is bringing these two worlds together. And understanding how these two worlds work together. I mean, everywhere I turn today, I can find all kinds of remedies and treatments. Alternative treatments would be, now I kind of like, a good example is, magnetics it's called TMS. It's for brain health. Okay? That's an alternative. That's an alternative therapy. But the one thing when we look at neuroplasticity and all of these different modalities that support neuroplasticity, there's still the underlying concern of systemic inflammation. And although neuroplasticity, and for what's further, is a lot of that inflammation is generated from our emotional reactions to our thoughts. Because the only thing you ever think about are your own thoughts. If I tell you something, as I'm talking to you right now, you're thinking about what I'm saying. So now that's your thought. I've just given you a thought, something to think about. And your emotional reactions to any thought are what constitute inflammation in your system, depending on how you react to it. So no matter how, and yes, neuroplasticity does support our emotional balance. It does. I'm not saying that it's not helpful, but there's other factors. Like I was looking at some research this morning that talks about the enteric nervous system in the gut and neuroplasticity there. So there's ways to look at this, and there's no one modality that is sufficient. We have to marry these worlds together. We have to begin to understand that when you take a medication, include an essential oil. Let me qualify that type of essential oil. It's important to utilize and customize genuine essential oils. Genuine, pure, ones that have not been adulterated, and better off ones that are not pre-made as far as blends are concerned. And knowing how to incorporate these with the medications is critical for helping to reduce the inflammation, enhance neuromodulation, which is how the brain actually produces chemistry. It supports neuroplasticity, because even in the studies that I'm reading about on neuroplasticity, there's different components to this. There's a number of moving parts to this. There's no one modality that is the best. Conventional medicine is not helping. It's not contributing to our wellness. It's actually making us sicker. And this is the part I'm getting at, because when we look at such targeted actions, like in a medication, if you're taking an antidepressant, it's just dealing with the depression. And again, when I work with the Amish, I hear this a lot. But the sad truth about it is, and the reason I'm really here right now, is there's a number of clinicians that I'm aware of that are at least working within that community. I cannot speak 100% across the country, but the ones that I'm familiar with, they're acting as if their modality is going to save someone's life. It's going to, and we're milking this. It's being milked. Like, oh, well, yeah, I'll see you several times a week. I'll see you for the rest of your, every week, what have you. I know many of these people see, I'm not going to list the types of modalities, but they see them, and they see them several times a week, every single week, and they're still having health issues. This doesn't mean that the work that they're doing is wrong. It means it's not enough, because they are operating from the context that I'm the one that can help you. When the truth is, the only thing that's going to help your body, or any body for that matter, to be well is your body. But it needs the correct information. It needs information that will remind it of its natural abilities. And that's my job. I feel like I've been placed on this planet, is to help people, or to remind you that your body is perfectly capable of healing itself. And to, more importantly, restore faith in your body's natural abilities. That's why I'm here talking with you. And yes, essential oils do help. And here's an example of what I'm talking about, and what, like I said, what brought me to doing this. I was talking with a young Amish man, 25. Reports to me that he had heart surgery 3 years ago. When I asked him what was the surgery on, it was, well, first and foremost, he's already informed me that he sees several different alternative doctors, clinicians. And he's convinced that he wanted to believe that they had him convinced that they could help, but he's still not feeling well. It was heart valve replacement. And when I asked why he had to have a heart, he started explaining to me that the weakness, the leaky valve. But when I asked him what was the condition that led to that I would have, he didn't know. So I had to start giving him some examples of certain things, like maybe rheumatic fever, I mentioned enlarged heart, and he goes, yeah, that was what I have. I have an enlarged heart. But he was thinking that these other clinicians were able to keep him stable. And he was disappointed. I kind of lost track there because this one person keeps calling me. So when I got and his concern is that he's developed scar tissue, and chances are he did. When we cut the body, it produces scar tissue. He asked me what his sister had recommended he use frankincense and wanted to know what I thought about that. I'm like, that's not going to help, protect you from scar tissue. So hearing that, he says to me, well, now when I overexert myself, I'm short of breath. And, his chest gets tight and he's very fatigued. Also, on the other side of that, he sleeps very well. So it's not loss of sleep. He's not getting enough oxygen. Now, there's a couple of things that could be going on here with him, because he's also admitted to the fact that he's got some serious yeast issues. That could be causing, a congestion in his lungs, but he didn't mention anything about congestion. All I know at this point is that he's got the yeast and he's got he's got a valve replacement 3 years afterwards. But he wants me to produce oils for him that are going to help relieve the scar tissue, which will help improve his breathing. This is his thinking. I'm going to make something for him. Definitely going to make something for him. I know why I'm making it for him, and I'm going to share with you why I'm making it for him. If there is scar tissue, absolutely. I can promise you there's a high level of yeast. Because of the high level of yeast, there's a lot of histamine circulating in his system. The stress response is on fire right now. It's on high alert. That's the reason why he's producing all these different things. And I can definitely help with some of these things that he's concerned about. But I can't fix his heart. There is no alternative modality that is going to fix that heart. That is a structural issue. And by the way, he does not take a medication. So he was released from the cardiologist, and he was treated by a real cardiologist, but he was treated by but there's no medication. He has no I asked him if he has any high blood pressure. He doesn't even know. Last time we saw his cardiologist was in December. She never informed him that he had high blood pressure. So he's kind of like living in the dark and making the assumption that this is just because. And when I started pointing out that this could be the result of the enlarged heart, because my youngest sister had an enlarged heart. I did not tell him that she did not survive. I didn't tell him that. I just, because he was adamant that that was not his problem. His problem is that he just overexerted himself. He couldn't link the two. He did understand that the yeast that he was talking about, which was primarily showing up on his feet, he did understand that was in his whole body. So he had me a little bit confused, but yet I had really admired his tenacity and his strong will and mind. He's a young dad. He's a provider. This is very important to him. He can't even begin to wrap his head around having a weak heart and being unable to work. I completely understood that. At the same time, I'm extraordinarily disappointed in the fact that he has healthcare or wellness professionals treating him. One of them is considered an actual doctor, and they're not encouraging him to at least have his heart checked. They're just telling him, oh yeah, we can do this and this and this, and we'll just fix your brain. We'll fix the nervous system, we'll fix the brain, and you'll be fine. I had to call his wife today and inform her of my concerns, because I can do a lot for him to really help, like I said in the beginning, modulate, really kind of help with the brain chemistry. I can help with the brain chemistry too. I can help relieve symptoms. I can help relieve scar tissue. There's a lot of things. I've been studying these chemicals in plants for over 40 years. I know what these things will do. I know how to serve him. At the same time, it's not going to fix the heart. If his heart is weakening or that valve is not working properly, it's not going to fix that. That is we have to start being realistic. And this is what holistic health is. When we take everything that we have available to us. Again, we're the most successful society in human history. We have the technology. What are we going to do to come together to begin to realize that what I offer supports, what you offer supports? We can bring these worlds together and learn and teach people how to integrate these. This is where optimal health and wellness come in. It is not about somebody being, taking all the credit and being the number one resource. This is not about anybody being, the only single resource. This is about somebody going, wait a minute, we need to call in somebody else. So I called his wife. I said, hey, look, I would much rather him go see the cardiologist and her go, nope, your heart is fine. And he calls me up and goes, you were 100% wrong. And I'd rather be wrong than have him collapse. He's got 2 young children and his life be done. Just because he wanted to be stubborn about the fact that he didn't want to think his enlarged heart was a problem. Because his exact words to me were, I've been living with this enlarged heart for the last 5 or 6 years and it's never given me a problem until now. He wasn't in a place to hear me talk about the stress response. He was not in a place to, he was very, very strong-minded. So I let him have the floor. I let him have his thoughts. I let him share himself, knowing full well that the only way that I was going to be able to serve him was to be able to speak to somebody who can possibly get him to the doctor. And what's interesting to me is when I shared this with her, she thanked me because she's actually very worried that there's something not right with his heart. So now she's going to take him to the doctor. And if that cardiologist says, you know what, there's really nothing wrong, at least I was in service as opposed to a disservice. And this is what I see happening. We've got to drop our egos. We've got to start putting that down and just go, look, we're all in this for the higher good. How can we come together and serve our populations, our communities from a holistic mindset? Holistic means the whole system, okay? Holistic is not natural. It does not mean natural. Holistic is whole system. When you use an herb or you use an oil specifically for depression, you are not treating the whole system. It's natural, but you're not working. You're not working with the whole, you're not taking the whole system into consideration. The whole system is looking at the hormonal system. It's looking at the digestive system. It's looking at the elimination system. It's looking, the lymph system. It's looking at the whole system. And then when we expand out, it's like, okay, so I do this, you do that. It's like working with the whole system, the whole wellness system. That's holistic health. It's not the alternative. This is what's being called for, and that's why I'm here today. So I don't know how this lands with you. I'd love to hear your comments, but I'm just really advocating for the fact that it's time that we come together for the whole and really serve the highest good, because we all have something to offer, but it's time to realize that the heart is connected to the brain, right? In my client's case. The yeast, believe it or not, candida, and yeast gets into all kinds of tissues, and it will definitely impact heart health. And if he has it as bad as he says he does, it's very possible that it's developing in his heart. So these are things to be taken into consideration. It's not vaginal, it's not oral, it's not on your feet. It's not just if it's in one spot, it's in many spots. Believe it or not, it actually gets into your ears too. It'll actually cause ringing in your ears. So I just offer this to you, as an example as to why we need to start looking at the entire system, from our bodies to the collective, and how we serve ourselves and how we serve one another. So with that, thank you so much for being here. I wish you the best of days.